Hi, my name is Lisa Beyer, and I'm the founder of Female Disruptors, and I am welcoming you to this keynote with my very special Sarah Nally, who is coming and joining us straight from Bali while she's also on her honeymoon. Sarah is the founder of She Evolves, and I have been following her and admiring her and really just so inspired from her. So I'm just going to hand it over to Sarah, and she is going to, Sarah, tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, and you are the Chief of Wonder. So what does that mean?
I love that. Well, I've got a name change because I actually got married a month ago. So I'm now Sarah Nally. My new husband and I actually decided to combine our names. And it gets cooler because he actually took my name as well, which was such a nice kind of modern thing to do. So yeah, we just got married and we're currently on honeymoon in beautiful Bali. And we've got a blended family of 5 magical children. First and foremost, family is everything for us. So taking a bit of a kind of design-led approach to blending our families has been something that we've been focused on for the last couple of years, really. But today, yes, I'm a Chief of Wonder, and I kind of invented that title because my experience went everything from like people experience, HR, recruitment, all the way through to human-centered design, employee experience design. I've run large design teams. I've done live event design. I used to run for 7 years an experience in Australia called Wired for Wonder. We had up to 3,000 people in our audience. We brought out people like Brene Brown and Guy Kawasaki and Nolan Bushnell, and also lots of really amazing local speakers, Dr. Jordan Ewan, Jill Hicks, and many, many more. And so really, I think creating an umbrella for myself was a part of like forming my own identity. And I think a lot of women, especially women founders, often kind of are navigating new territories. And as you navigate new territories, coming up with little labels or things that kind of resonate for you can be really helpful, because otherwise you're trying to potentially pigeonhole yourself into something that maybe doesn't quite encapsulate your magic, your wonder. So I am on a mission to encourage women to be as big, as bright, as vibrant as they are, and not clip their own wings to fit into society, and certainly not play small. So that explains a little bit of the Chief of Wonder kind of title.
I love that. And the reason why I wanted you to kind of go first and really set the tone for our happy hour kickoff of the 2023 Unstoppable Female Disruptors Virtual Summit is because you really do a great job of giving us intentional inspiration and checking all the buckets when it comes to entrepreneurship, leadership, mental health and wellness, financial wellness. So you're showing us basically like you need to take time off. You didn't take just a week for your honeymoon. I think you've taken a month or something, and you're just showing that, that how important it is for fun, family, work, and balance. So I thought, who better than Sarah to kick off this conference of being unstoppable and share some of your wisdom. So go ahead. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. And I'm so passionate about women, and I know that women still need so much support. You've got your tagline, 4.6% of women make up CEOs within the Fortune 500. And that's the same in micro business, in smaller kind of businesses, but also in corporate leadership as well. We're still, fighting for those roles and those opportunities. And I think the most important thing as you go on your journey is not to lose yourself and not to sacrifice your wonder. And so, the title of my talk, When She Evolved, We All Evolve, is really a kind of this sort of, I suppose, provocation that as women get into positions of power, we don't have to do it the way it used to be done. And actually, we can use what makes us wonderful, what makes us different, what makes us unique to actually make the world a better place. And so today I kind of wanted to talk about a few kind of practical things from a head, from a gut, and from a heart perspective that can really help every woman here set up their 2023 for a really spectacular year. But I think it's important to acknowledge that the last few years have not been easy. And a new year represents an opportunity to take stock, to check in, and to actually get rid of maybe what's not working for you and design some new stuff. And I know controversially, there's a lot of kind of stuff out there in the social media space at the moment of people saying like, oh, New Year's resolutions are a waste of time, nobody sticks to them, or, you know, oh, New Year's resolutions are amazing, we should do them. And I firmly sit in the camp of believing New Year's resolutions are amazing. And that's for a couple of reasons. I actually am a behavioral science practitioner. I have a diploma in neuropsychology, and I'm a design thinking expert. And each of those things for me give me a lens on what works. And I love going to the research to see what sticks. Because for me, sustainable change is one of those like, why bother unless you can actually make it stick kind of things that I kind of go after. So the things I'm kind of going to suggest today are very much grounded in that kind of practical research, but also in what I know kind of feels good from my own lived experience as well, because I think that that's really super important. So I might just kind of tell you a little bit about what I'm up to at the moment and a little bit about what 2023 holds for me. I actually currently work in a bank full time. I'm the queen of side hustles, as many people call me, because I hold a full time role as a chief design officer for a bank and also side hustle with things like the She Evolves community, with a Wonder Lab experience that we are opening up in Auckland in New Zealand, which fuses things like Pilates and infrared saunas and ice baths with creative workshops and an opportunity for people to come in and really like catch themselves before burnout and kind of set some intentions to work more intentionally and consciously towards their purpose, their why, their goals, etc. We also have a company called Wonder and Wander, do some sort of consulting there. And we've got a thing called Wander Nest, which is a little tiny house concept that we've opened up on our land, playing with that as well. We'll be experimenting with some retreats, He Evolve and We Evolve, because actually Steve, my gorgeous husband, and I are really passionate about gathering people. We think that magic happens when people come together, and that there's something really inspirational about community, about finding your tribe, about not going it alone. And that's one of the reasons, Lisa, why I love you so much, because you and I both share that. We think that there's plenty of space in this big old world of ours. And if we actually come together and explore things together, then we can unlock and amplify the good, you know, which is what it's all about. But I'm going to get personal for a second, because I think it's really important to kind of self-locate and figure out like, who are you? Where would you like to be? And what's the delta? And then what can you do to actually design intentionally experiences that really serve you as you move from where you are to where you'd like to be? One of the exercises I like to do is just get a big old piece of paper, even before you do any vision boarding, get a big old piece of paper and actually draw a little face in the middle of it. And that's you, write your name. And you know what, your name can change, like mine just has recently. I've been Sarah Nally. I was married to my first husband. I was Sarah Rucroft. I went back to Sarah Nally. I'm back to now Sarah Piri Nally. So like your name could change. And so self-locating and actually identifying where you're at, who you are, and where you came from is a really lovely kind of grounding exercise to do. I am an Australian, but I live in New Zealand right now, and the Māori culture is one of the most beautiful cultures that I've had the pleasure of being immersed in or near and having an opportunity to learn from. And the Māori people talk about their whakapapa. It's spelled WHAKAPAPA, and you can give that a little Google, but essentially that's your family tree. And understanding where you came from and who you are connected to and who your ancestors are gives you a real grounding. So just before you start any of this vision boarding, before you kind of get into like figuring out where you want to go, taking the time to connect with where you've come from is a really beautiful grounding exercise. And there's a couple of really lovely templates online that if you just Google that, you can actually find them. They do them in classrooms all around New Zealand. And I highly recommend starting with that. So what is your whakapapa? Who are you? Where have you come from? Once you've got that grounding, now you can start to think about where you'd like to go. And as you do that, it is important to check in with what your values are. Now, your values, there's lots of really great tools on there. I think Dr. DeMartini has got like a values exercise. I've seen like a whole heap of different quizzes. But I do think it's important to also harvest your ancestors' values, because you can have values that you think are yours, but really a value only ever comes into absolute clarity when it is coming into question. I don't know if you guys have had that experience where you're suddenly in this situation where you're like, oh, I'm really uncomfortable right now. I don't like this. I don't agree with this. Something in me is saying, no, 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 no. I love those situations because I'm like, oh, yay, I'm about to harvest a value. I'm about to discover something new about myself. And so this exercise is not just a once and done. This is something that absolutely you could adopt as an annual ritual to sort of sit there and go, what did I learn last year? Where did I have quests or experiences that really brought my values to light? Where did I feel compromised? Where did I feel squeezed? Where did I feel uncomfortable? Because they can help you get really sort of crystal clear on what those kind of values are. And then you can start to do the visioning. And, I'm really fascinated by the neuroscience of vision boarding because, yes, in the kind of woo-woo community, which I'm very much a part of, we love a bit of visioning. We love a bit of like, put it out there into the universe and see what will manifest. But there's some lovely neuroscience that actually talks to why that's beneficial for you and your brain. And one of those things is value tagging. So when you actually take the time to see something, bring that into your visual, you do something called activating your RAS, your reticular activator system, which is this little part of your brain which can then value tag and help you imprint things that are important to you. And so essentially you can kind of like, I love post-it notes. It's like put a post-it note on that thing and be like, hey, that's something that's important to me. I'd like to see more of that. And so using your vision board as a really intentional thing to actually bring into your world things that you'd like to see more of is a fabulous and very useful way to program yourself. And if you think of your brain, if you like, as like a supercomputer that you can actually run programs on. Early days, before we typed programs, they used to have these little pieces of paper that they'd feed into the computer to actually follow the processes. And so think about your vision board as that. What are the experiences that you want to experience? And what would the visual representation of that experience be? And I think there's something really important about that because your brain is not an idiot. Like it can tell when something's a bit superficial. Like you can, whether you like it or not, when you're scrolling Instagram, you can see the fake stuff from the real stuff. You're getting a sense every time because actually you're this finely tuned supercomputer, as I was saying. And that will bring me in a second to your gut. Because we've got this thing called the ENS, which is the enteric nervous system, and that actually runs all the way from your esophagus all the way down to your bum, into your guts all the way through. And essentially what that does is create this feedback loop. So those icky feelings that you feel in your gut when you're like, oh, something's a bit off here. I don't like that, or I don't feel good about that. That's information. And that's your body's way of saying, like, I'm sensing something here that I've seen before that doesn't quite add up, that doesn't look quite right. And so using that as like your body's way of kind of saying to you, look, I've run the data and here's how I feel about this can be really, really, really powerful. So know that when you are vision boarding, don't put stupid stuff up there like, personal jets and like big mansions if that actually doesn't resonate for your soul. And I say that because actually a lot of the time people go, oh, I did that vision boarding thing and none of it actually came into reality. And it's like, what did you put there? So a little powerful hack that I have is I actually like to vision board. I've got vision boards on my phone. So on my iPhone, I actually create albums called Vision Board 2023, for example. And I'll go through my photos, usually my favorites, because I've love-hearted those at some point because they're a high point experience for me. And I'll drag them through to my vision board for 2023 because they are real, they are mine, and they are what I want to amplify. And so thinking about how you can build on your existing while visioning out future cool stuff. And don't get me wrong, I put a Tesla on my vision board a couple of years ago and I have a Tesla. I put living in New Zealand and I live in New Zealand. Like there are things that, you put out there that absolutely help you vision, but creating that tension between what already exists and what could be is a lovely way to scaffold your reality in a way that allows you to manifest it a lot faster. It's yours, it's real, that sort of thing. There is a dark side of gut feel though. And I didn't want to just be like, oh, happy, happy, la, la, let's all trust our guts. Because the reality of intuition is that and this is how the neuroscience community actually define it. Intuition is actually defined as the ability to know or understand anything without conscious reasoning. And so, of course, we love opening up an Apple product and just knowing how to use it. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to consciously reason with it. I just pick it up and I start playing with it. That's awesome. Do we want you to do the same thing when you jump in a plane or a pilot seat for the first time? Would you want your neuroscientist who is about to operate on your brain to do the same thing? Potentially not. And so absolutely trusting your gut when you've had some exposure or experience to something in the past, or it's something that you have the time to creatively play with and engage with, yay. But when it's something that requires mastery or skill, I think that's where we need to draw a line and actually say, these are the things that we need to take time to be more conscious with, to explore, to research, to learn, to actually gain those 1,000, 10,000 hours of personal mastery around before we can then trust our intuition. Because essentially it's kind of like garbage in, garbage out. Like, I cannot give you my intuition on whether you have brain cancer because I'm actually not experienced in that particular thing. I can give you my experience on anything to do with design, anything to do with careers, anything to do with experience, because I have lots and lots of experience in those particular areas. And so I can draw from my supercomputer and give you wisdom that will be, yes, from my gut feel. And I could go back and know or understand that, consciously reason with that later. But essentially, we can hack into people's wisdom that way. And I think that's a lovely way to give people like almost their purpose. What are the experiences that you've just naturally gained in your life that you're unconsciously competent in? And how might you share your wisdom in those areas in 2023? Because that's your effortless wonder zone. That's the stuff that you do have intuition and wisdom on. So I wanted to kind of share a little bit of like the light side and the dark side of the gut feel, and when to trust and when to maybe like go to the experts and ask a few extra questions before you kind of jump in and get a little more. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was your heart. Now, a lot of people say like, oh, in 2023, what is your heart desire? And I remember going back maybe 10 years ago. I've just celebrated my 40th birthday. So just before I turned 30, actually, I remember having these sudden awakenings or awarenesses around what my non-negotiables were in my life. And it was such a beautiful kind of awakening, but at the same time, it was really scary because I went from being like, I love everything, to being like, I don't actually love everything. I like those things more than those things. It was sort of this or that kind of awakening experience that sort of happened for me. And I think over that 10 years, taking time to actually ask my heart what my heart wanted was not a quick experience. It wasn't my heart wants this, my heart wants this. And I have watched, people on TikTok or Instagram and that sort of thing. And I've had a little envy from time to time when I've seen them being like, oh, my heart desires this. And they just like go off into the sunset and do that. And the free-spirited 7 within me, I'm a 7 on the Enneagram, yearns to live in that kind of deeply connected way to my heart. But the reality of the experience for myself was that I actually had to build a relationship with my heart first. And I think that actually is quite true for a lot of women, especially successful women, especially women who are out there doing the things, getting the stuff done, hustling away, kind of making magic happen. We can often lose connection between these 3 things: our heart, our gut, our head. And so taking time to journal and actually ask yourself questions on a regular basis is one of the ways that we can build the relationship, not only between our head and self, our gut and self, but also our heart and self. And interestingly enough, again, this is one of those kind of cool neuroscience things. Journaling actually helps calm your amygdala. So the more regular kind of journaling practice that you're in, the more you're able to stay out of fight or flight, out of your reptilian brain, and actually get more conscious and get more present. And obviously, the more present that you're going to be, the more capable you're going to be of being able to harvest joy in the moment and having those kind of things. So there's 5 little tips that I have for you when it comes to building a relationship with your heart. So the first is you need to be really mindful of your negative thoughts and your limiting beliefs, because often they almost are like heart walls that are stopping you from being able to have a really good conversation with yourself and your heart. The next one is building a good relationship, and that starts with little chats first. So it could be as simple as next time you're in a cafe or a local restaurant, instead of just going for the faves, actually go, "Hey, heart, what would you like to order today?" And you know what? If it goes for ice cream first, maybe you're going to start with ice cream. Like, just do something a little silly, a little frivolous, to just take that time to actually listen to and connect to your heart. And you'll realize over time, you'll actually start to hear or feel different in the moment when you start to ask those questions. The next one is then to notice the patterns. So actually, when I ordered ice cream first, I had one of the best days of my life because I listened to my heart and I went with what I felt like instead of what I thought I should do, which is like that head heart kind of programming tension that we tend to sort of run along for a little while. Once we're noticing patterns, we can then do number 4, which is to actually start to notice when we are in joy. And when we are in joy, we're enjoying ourselves. So how often are you aware of when you're enjoying yourself? And it might be after the fact when you go, actually, that was a really enjoyable experience. But after you've done that kind of noticing, checking in, starting to be more aware, you have that opportunity to notice when you are actually in joy. It is important, and I have this as number 5, because while we've been mindful of our negative thoughts and beliefs, I think it's really important to listen to the negative emotions as well, because your heart, when you've got a really strong relationship with it, will actually be like, "Hey, I don't like this. This is not good. There's no good vibe. I'm not feeling good about this, or I feel heartbroken, or this is, it's quite a kind of dramatic experience to be quite involved with your heart. But it's important to listen to those negative emotions. And then the 6th one is just to do what feels good. So to start to trust that, ice cream when you're on the menu and you felt like doing it and it felt good and you enjoyed, then that's a good thing. So, be okay with doing things that feel good. So that were just like a few little tips from me when it was thinking about, 2023. Yes, a lot of people are nervous. We've had a few kind of rocky starts, like even last year was full of promise. And then I know a lot of people had their hardest year yet last year. But these 3 kind of grounding things, so thinking about vision boarding and priming your RAS and creating visions for your future based on experiences that create joy for you, maybe going to your heart relationship would be quite cool. The gut, knowing the difference between, good intuition and like sketchy intuition, I think is super powerful. And then the heart might give you a little joyful kick in 2023.
I love that, Sarah. So tell us a little bit more about how we can elevate this experience through some of the main program I would love for you to share is She Evolves and what's happening this year and some of the other things you slightly mentioned on, but we're getting just a little 25-minute dose of Sarah, but if we wanted to get a 3 to 5 day dose of Sarah and She Evolves, what would that look like? What are some of the things that someone could look forward to?
Yes. So I have this belief that when you design experiences for people that are in the right environment with the right people, that you've already set the stage for goodness to happen. And so, even for example, Steve and I choosing to come to Bali for our honeymoon, that was a very purposeful and intentional choice from Steve, because he knows as soon as I'm in Bali, I'm always so incredibly happy. So we have chosen Fiji as one of our kind of founding locations, if you like, for She Evolves. And Fiji has a very soft, feminine energy. And you walk off the plane and you're hit by the warmth. And it's not just because of the temperature, like energetically, you feel the warmth and you're greeted by this big bulla hello, and people there are just absolutely incredible. And we purposely chose a resort, Shangri-La, in Fiji, because it's sort of on its own island. They've recently spent a lot of money doing up their food and beverage. Food's really important to us. We're always like looking for the amazing food. But it's still a little rustic. And I wanted that because actually it meets you where you're at. Like if you kind of get there and you're like, ew, my room's gross. It's like, okay, what's going on for you? How do you feel about yourself right now? So a purposely kind of created container And then we start to curate the experiences within that container. And so, for example, last year we had a series of speakers and workshops. We had an underwater photographer who actually immortalized women in these really tasteful underwater, beautiful, some were naked, some were in bathers, like photos that were absolutely beautiful. People did one-to-one coaching sessions and went a little deeper. But I think the most incredible thing has been the depth and connection of the community and these women. They say, you know, I came expecting to go on a bit of a retreat. I've walked away with lifelong friends and a group of girls. Like this morning, the WhatsApp group was pinging because someone was sharing one of their kind of limiting beliefs or experiences that they were in right now. And literally within 5 minutes, 6 of the ladies had kind of jumped on, were asking questions and giving journal prompts and like, I can jump on a webinar with you if you like, and like just this beautiful kind of supportive experience, which I'm hugely passionate about creating. So we'll probably have around 77 women. We like to keep it at the right level where it's like big enough to feel like a party, but small enough so it feels really, really safe, and that you can kind of go deeper and have those multiple connections with people over the kind of days that you're there, which is quite amazing. We're doing a We Evolve retreat in October. Again, it will be in Fiji. This time it will be at the Marriott. And that's another really beautiful resort, but it's a slightly fancy resort. And there's a reason for that again. If you're going to do deep inner work with your partner, like we sort of feel like you need to go back and have like a super fancy room so that you can, you know, go back to your soft place. And we're all about soft landings. It's like, how do you create like a soft landing after a transformational experience? How do you make sure that whatever you've kind of gone through doesn't create chaos in your real life? Because obviously you're in a suspended reality when you go away to one of these things. And so how do you kind of come back, stay connected to your new tribe, but also bring stuff back that's not going to kind of jar or like isolate you from your existing kind of world. So that one's going to be a lot of fun. And then Steve, I'm pushing him and like poking him because he's meant to and knows he's meant to. His soul knows that he's aching to hold a He Evolves. And he's building an amazing program and an amazing community of men who'll come together. And I think Steve said a really beautiful thing after She Evolves last year. He's in the background helping me. You know, we are like so in love, but also really passionate about coming together to help each other. And he said, his summary of She Evolves was, when she evolves, he takes notice. And it was this lovely kind of hat tip to like all the work that I'd done and all the experiences that we'd been involved in had activated something in him and had made him want to kind of come into his power. So I found that quite beautiful and quite amazing. And then finally, just the opportunity, if anyone's in New Zealand, in Auckland, we will be hosting these kind of burnout interventions. A day of kind of leadership, design thinking, experience. You've got your infrared sauna, your ice bath, your Pilates. You've also got the opportunity to sit and create that vision for your life. And that's going to be obviously a real treat for us to be able to facilitate too.
Well, sign me up. I want to do everything that you're doing. So Sarah, you are on a mission and vision that we are all aligned with and will follow. And if anything, follow Sarah on Instagram and join her Facebook community, She Evolves. I'm part of it. I'm trying to get to New Zealand this year, I hope, in May. And maybe some of you who are here will meet us there. So Sarah, thank you so much. Any last words of wisdom before we sign off?
Just women, keep doing your amazing things. Do not forget your magic, and please do not clip your wings. Spread your wonder and trust your gut and your heart and obviously your mind. And when they come together, you can be absolutely amazing. Enjoy this incredible event.
Thank you. Thank you for being a female disruptor, Sarah.
Welcome.
Namaste.
Namaste.